Hey guys, welcome to mathspays.com. We're looking today at types of data. So, whenever you do a bit of a survey, for example, you might be asking for the number of people in a family versus you might ask about your pet type. You get two different responses. The first response I mentioned was stuff to do with numerical data. So, as the name suggests, your responses are all numbers, like 3 people in a family. If I ask about the types of pets, then we're looking at categorical data. So basically, words or categories. Now, obviously in mathematics, we like to use formal kind of language. So numerical data, the formal term of numerical is quantitative. Okay, hopefully you recognize that word, quantity, all right? That quantity sounds like numbers. So that's number one, how we remember quantitative. And then versus the formalized version of qualitative data. So you do have to recognize the difference between those two words. They will interchange them. So you need to understand that they mean the same thing, quantity, numerical, and then qualitative and category. Now, with each individual category here, well, type of data, we have 2 subcategories. So numerical data, we have the first subcategory of what's called discrete data, and then we also have what we refer to as continuous data. Now, discrete, I like to use the sort of term, these are exact numbers, okay? So for example, we might ask, as I used earlier on, the number of, let's say, siblings, so brothers and sisters. So if I said, how many brothers and sisters do you have? You're going to give me an answer of like 1, 2, 3, 4, but you're not going to give me something like 1.2. That's not really possible, even if they don't have an arm. We're going to say they're a whole person. Why do I like exact as a word, as opposed, I guess, from whole? Well, what is your shoe size? The answer that you're probably going to give me is something like 8, 8.5, 9. You're not going to give me a number like 8.2. You look a little bit silly if you ask that. So, although it's not a whole number, we call it an exact number. That is discrete data. Now, as opposed from continuous, I like to call these a version of a decimal number or a fractional number. So, things like a length. You can have a table of 2.3 meters. You can run let's say a 100-meter race in 11.2 seconds. So you can have a point of that particular number, so it's called continuous. And then we come across to our qualitative data. Now, we used to often only have really just one category, and we used to leave it at that. But these days, we actually put this into 2 subcategories as well. We have what we call as ordinal data, so ordinal categorical or ordinal qualitative, and we have nominal. Now, hopefully you might recognize ordinal close to the word of order. So if we look at categories such as, let's say, your grades, okay, in a test. So you might get an A, a B, a C, and a D. So they're not numbers, but they are letters, they're words, okay? But they can be placed in some type of order, with obviously A being the highest, and we've got D being the lowest. So you can place those numbers in some type of order. Where nominal, you might have things like color, or we spoke about pets. How do you put color in order from highest to lowest, or the type of pets in highest to lowest? You can't do that. So we refer to that as nominal data. So again, whether your types of data, you have 4 or 2 main categories or 2 main types, which then go into the 2 subcategories for both. Now, you may be interested in the next sort of slide. You may want to pause this and copy that down. That's all the formalized sort of versions of what I just said. But you can see again that ordinal talks about ranking for qualitative. Okay, discrete uses exact. And then our continuous uses the decimal scale. So again, that's just a more formalized version of what I just spoke about. Now, what I've got here is a worked example. Good idea to pause this and then have a crack at each type, see what you can do in terms of linking it. Okay, how'd you get on? So let's have a quick crack at this. So the number of students absent from school. Well, that's going to give me numbers like, could be 10 people, 11 people. So it's numbers, and this is going to be discrete because they're exact numbers. So this would be called discrete, and it will be numerical, or in this case, quantitative data. The types, well, straight away I see types, I know it's category, so it's nominal or ordinal, of a vehicle using a certain road. So a bus, a car, a bike. Now obviously we can't put those in order, so we're going to refer to that as nominal categorical, or I probably should have used the word qualitative, shouldn't I? The various pizza sizes available at a local takeaway. Now what are some possible sizes? You might say they might be a small, a medium, a large, etc. Now see how they're all words? And look, I've already put them in from order from smallest to biggest. So we would call that ordinal qualitative or categorical. Okay, use the formalized word there. So again, they are words, so it's automatic categorical data or qualitative data, but because I could put them in order, we can call it ordinal. And the last one, the room temperature at various times. So I'll be giving things like 16 degrees, or it could be 18.2 degrees, so they're numbers. And of course, I can have a decimal temperature. So in this case, we're going to call this continuous, and it's going to be quantitative or numerical. Okay, hopefully you got all those ones correct. Now the last thing I want to talk about, very brief, and that's going to be the types of data can also be called a census versus a sample. And I've put here a nice little diagram that kind of shows you what a census is. Now, a census is what we refer to as the whole population. Now, this can be determined on the question you're asking. Now, I could say I want to know about the types of pets of every student at Trinity Grammar School. Okay, now a census would be, I'd be surveying the entire school. Okay, the entire school. Whereas a sample, I might just ask, let's say, some year 10 students. So a sample is a portion of the whole population. Okay, and you can see it in this diagram where the sample is just taken from that smaller portion of the census. So again, a census is the entire population, depending on what the questions ask. I may have said, what's the favorite pet in year 10 at Trinity Grammar, which means that it would just be year 10. And then a sample might be one of the classes from that, or one of the houses of that year group. So again, a census is an entire population versus a sample, which is just a portion of the population. Okay, guys, that was a very quick introduction of types of data. Hopefully you made some notes and that made sense. Any questions, please feel free to drop me an email. Have an awesome day.